What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another Fantasy Author Lounge. As usual, I have another fantastic guest in the lounge this month, and that is none other than Andrea Stewart, the author of the Drowning Empire trilogy, Bone Shard Daughter, and she's here to talk to us all about writing processes, cats, fantasy, Star Trek, all the good stuff. Here we go. Welcome to the lounge. It's a pleasure. How's your day going?
Oh, it's going well. I got some of my word count in, answered emails, the usual.
The
Very
author admin
exciting.
and the writing, yeah. Part and parcel of the author life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, first off, for anyone who hasn't heard of you or the Bone Shard Daughter, tell us all about yourself, Andrea. Life, writing processes, how you got into,
Oh,
not
goodness.
writing process, we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, writing life, who are you?
I've been doing this for a really long time. So, The Bone Shard Daughter is my debut epic fantasy. But I have been writing fantasy since I was a little kid. So,
Awesome.
since I think it was like I finished my first manuscript in sixth grade, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
But it was not very long. It was like 30 something thousand words. An undertaking though for that age.
It's still pretty long
um,
for sixth grade.
so I'd been doing that ever since. It wasn't until after I had finished college that I thought, oh, I've written this book. I'm going to try to get published. That was
Absolutely.
quite a process.
Mm.
I started querying that book, did not get an agent, wrote more books, kept querying, finally got an agent, I think like 6 years after I started querying. My book went out on submission. It didn't sell. But put another one out on submission. That one didn't sell either. And then I wrote The Bone Jar Daughter. So
Wow.
so that was actually 6 years after I got an agent. So all in all, it was like 12 years.
Wow.
So
That is quite a
I,
journey.
I do tell people when, as other aspiring authors, I'm like, don't take as long as me though. so,
Yeah.
so I've been in love with the fantasy and sci-fi genre for as long as I can remember.
Mm.
And I've wanted to be an author for almost as long as I can remember. So it's been the realization of a lifelong dream, definitely.
That's so cool. Yeah, I can see the passion in it and the way that kind of you chat online, because we've only known each other through Twitter and Facebook and stuff. So obviously that's what I see is, or what kind of drew me to, your journey. Not that I knew that it was 12 years long. That's amazing. But yeah, you always seem to talk with a passion for fantasy and a passion for SFF in general. And yeah, it really shines through social media. And Bone Shard Daughter's on my TBR, and I cannot wait to get to it. So
Well, I hope
yeah,
you like it.
I'm sure I will. No, anything with the cover that good. Yeah, the cover alone just drew me to it, and we'll get that up on the screen here so everyone can have a look at its awesomeness. But yeah, I mean, the title's badass, the cover's badass. It was nominated for the Goodreads Choice Award. Was it last year for the best debut novel? The Bookness Awards for best trad novel. Everyone's loving it. Tell us about it. What's the story?
So I've kind of explained it to people as an epic fantasy that is in an Asian-inspired setting, and it follows several characters. So I know that if anyone's read the online synopsis, it doesn't really reflect that, but it's kind of hard to summarize things
Yeah.
in that small space. So it follows several characters. There's a daughter who's trying to reclaim her rightful place as heir, and that's the one that's in the synopsis online. There's a smuggler who professes not to care, but can't seem to stop doing good things. There's
Nice.
two women who are in an established relationship who are struggling with the class differences between them. And there's a stranger on a remote island who's trying to unravel the mystery of why she's there. So all of these storylines sound like they are separate, but they do interweave and come together throughout the course of the book. So there's also like a lingering kind of in the background, a revolution that's brewing.
Ooh, yeah, because that's one of the things that I saw, that one of the taglines was rebellion, which is one of my favorite kind of ideas of a storyline. I mean, it's, however you do it, it could be a trope, but there are many different facets to the rebellion trope, and it always draws me into a book as soon as I see it. And that just sounds amazing, because there's a quite unique magic system that I got from the synopsis, which is the bone shard magic, which I know is only kind of one character's pursuit, but obviously it's obviously in the title. Yeah, tell us about that, because I love magic systems. I always want to find out more.
Oh, me too. Yes. So it's it was actually like inspired a little bit by computer programming. Oh, if you hear babies in the background, that's because I'm yeah, I have a baby, my sister has a baby, so it's inspired by computer programming in some ways. So basically, the emperor requires all of his citizens to tithe to him a shard of their skull, which he keeps in this vault, and he carves commands onto them and puts them into these constructs that he's made. So not only do these commands dictate what these constructs can and cannot do, but it also powers them. So it kind of like sucks the life force from the people whose shards he's using.
Wow, that is awesome. That is so cool. I like that. I'm feeling like it sounds to me very original. It also sounds kind of, I'm getting like a mix of mythologies from it, and yeah, I just want to know more. Where did you come up with that? Is it a completely original idea? Is it kind of pulled together? Nothing that sounds wrong either, but yeah.
It's kind of, well, I knew that I wanted to write about constructs, and kind of bring like that science fiction feel a little bit to a fantasy book. And then also, I mean, the whole origin story of this is, I went to lunch with some of my author friends at the San Antonio Worldcon, so a very long time ago. And one of my friends, Marina Lossetter, who's actually also a science fiction and fantasy author, she got Chinese food from this food court in San Antonio, which is not the best place to get Chinese food. Which I always tell her I'm going to make her like good Chinese food sometime to make up for that. But awesome. She actually almost choked on a shard of bone that was in her food. So, and then I started thinking, bones, shards of bones. Like, what if they were magic?
That is
so it's like a running, it's like a running joke among my friends now that one of them has to suffer a near-death experience for me to have an idea for my next book.
Sometimes that's what it takes for an idea to come, or the idea to come.
Like, I appreciate Marina's sacrifice.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an origin story I haven't really ever heard before for a novel idea, which is absolutely excellent. But yeah, as long as your friends don't have to choke on things for you to write novels, then that's excellent. That's really interesting. Then, so obviously the rest of the world, you kind of built around that, but that was the original genesis of the world.
Right. Well, I mean, I had like several ideas that I knew I kind of want to cobble together, like the idea of the shards being used for magic, the idea of using constructs, and then also I had this idea of somebody just kind of being trapped in this palace of locked doors where they kind of had to successively unlock them to uncover these mysteries and secrets. Because I don't know if you play video games, but that's one of the things that I find so appealing about them is that progression.
Yes,
so I kind of wanted to have so I kind of wanted to have that in the book as well. So I looked at those things, and then I also knew I wanted to have a smuggler character who had that kind of like irreverent voice. So kind of just like mushed all those together.
That's awesome. I mean, that's how kind of books come together. But what really kind of makes me want to read it even more now, I might just have to kind of shuffle it on my TBR, is the idea of the characters coming together and having the 4 or 5 separate storylines that I imagine book 2, maybe book 3, or even book 1 sometimes, they'll smash together, or some of them come together. And I love that bit when A character, B character passes or crosses paths.
Oh,
it's so satisfying.
The best. It is because you're thinking, like, while you're reading their points of view, you're like, how are these characters going to react to each other? Are they ever going to meet? And then when they do, it's very fun.
Excellent. So you're writing book 3 right now. So we have Bone Shard Daughter, and we have book 2, book 3. What are their titles?
So book 2 is The Bone Shard Emperor. So that's going to be out in November. And then book 3 is The Bone Shard War. So we
Awesome.
have a natural progression.
I love that. Again, another kind of love of mine is when titles in fantasy do that, where it's just like, you know, the hook of the title and it changes to show the progression. Love it. That's great. So yeah, what's your writing process? Do you have a specially built writing cave? Are you, you know, someone who has headphones and music all the time? Is it copious coffee? What is it?
So it's, I mean, I have like one coffee because I start the
Nice.
day with that.
Yeah.
And then I generally like drink tea for the rest, but I do kind of, so right now I actually work out at my sister's house. And they have a room that we all just kind of use as our office.
Cool.
But I go sit there, and then I have an enormous screen. Actually, I bought a television to use as my screen, which is pretty fun.
Oh.
It's very, so
It's badass.
it's not like that helpful for drafting, but for revising, I find it extremely helpful.
Okay,
But I'll sit down there and then put on like noise canceling headphones. And my husband makes fun of me for this, but I'll listen to the same soundtrack like over and over again.
Yeah.
I find it kind of like as a shortcut to putting myself in that mindset, because then it's like, okay, this is work time. This is the time when I'm putting words down. And then I'll set Forest on my phone. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like a work timer app.
Oh, cool. Right. Yeah.
So like basically, it's a timer that you can set for however much time. You can categorize what kind of work you're doing. And then basically if you navigate away from the app, it grows like a tree. And if you navigate away, it kills the tree.
Ooh, yeah, that would get me. That would get me in the feels.
Yeah. And then that tree is like forever dead in your forest and it looks terrible. So so I turned that app on. And then I set like a timer. Right now I've been doing like 2 hours, and then I turn off the internet on my on my computer.
Excellent.
And then I just write, and then every like 500 words I reward myself with this piece of dark chocolate. This is like probably too much information, but it's all these kinds of things kind of combine to make it so I can actually get a word count done. I usually try to get it done in the morning so that I can like read and respond to people and everything in the afternoon.
Yeah, which is kind of tough. I mean, I'm in the Pacific time zone, which I've been struggling with getting used to, but it seems like the rest of the world's already asleep, and I'm kind of catching up with the rest, especially kind of America, US, the East Coast of US and Europe and things like that. So that's great.
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, my contract is with the UK side of Orbit, so I'll often wake up to emails from them. So that's always fun. Or my agent, because my agent is UK based as well.
Nice. It's your writing process is sounds really refined though. I mean, you say about the different facets coming together, but it sounds like you've kind of, like you said, coupled those together to create your kind of, I'd say, perfect process. It might not be perfect every day because that's just writing, as
it's
we know.
Not perfect every day, but I mean, for the most part, it works pretty well. So
yeah, sounds like an ideal situation. I mean, the way you say shortcut in terms of music, you're absolutely right, and that's how the way that we talked about it in the lounge before with previous guests, but also the way that I work as well. And I have, for some reason, all my playlists have German names. That's a long story. I can't even tell you where it came from. I have a working playlist, and apologies to any German listeners. But it's I have a working playlist, and it's just the same songs from the same soundtracks. And there's only about 50 songs or 70 songs on there, but it just goes through. I don't even notice the song switching, but it is that shortcut to be like work time or inspiration or writing mode in general. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I switched it up maybe like once every year.
Oh, wow.
So, lately cool. It's been like the Mass Effect 3 soundtrack.
Ooh, that's a very good one.
Yeah.
Actually. I always forget about Mass Effect. I use the Halo soundtrack sometimes, or Halo soundtracks. Mine is a lot of film music, I find, as well. So anything by Thomas.
Yeah, it tends to be like really like grand and intense. So I find that's like really helpful for writing fantasy. Yeah.
That's it. I think we should get a playlist together. We should just have something of all the authors that have been on the lounge or just authors out there, and we just put, you know, your top 3 concentration songs or writing songs into a playlist and share it out.
That would be awesome. Yeah, and
Yeah.
see like how much people hate it. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. In terms of writing process, you know, that's awesome in terms of your environment. Are you more on the spectrum of a planning person or a pantsing person? Where do you sort of lie in that spectrum?
Oh, I'm a planning person. I mean, I can't say that I stick 100% to the plan, but having an outline, to me, it helps me really get the words down, because I think what the part that slows me down the most is if I'm staring at the screen and I'm like, what happens next? Or
Mm-hmm.
how does this happen? So having an outline that kind of bypasses that, you know,
Yeah.
so I'm not like staring at the screen and being like, what happens? I already know what happens.
Right. Yeah.
That makes it a lot faster. Although, you know, like I said, I do run into problems sometimes in the outline. Like I've had this never ending tendency to write my outline and then realize that like not enough is happening. Like I'll have a chapter and I'm like, what are they just like talking about the weather here? Like, what am I doing? So I have to go back and like, you know, fix my outline. So yeah, it's, I don't think that there's any, I would be surprised if out there, if there's an author with like a perfect process that they use every time and it works the same way. Because another thing that I've noticed too is that writing each book is like a new learning experience, and it's different from writing the previous one. So what may work for one book may not work for another one. Because I wrote The Bone Shard Daughter in like 3 months while I had a day job, and
Wow.
that, and then I didn't have to do a lot of revising on it. And I was like, okay, cool, I know how to write books now.
Let's do
And
this.
then
Yeah.
right, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just bang these out from now on. And then I got to book 2 and I was like, oh, that was a real struggle, just trying to you know, figure out how all the plot lines were intertwining there and what had to be done in book 2 so that book 3 would make sense. And yeah, it
All
was
the
a
fun
mess.
stuff.
I'm happy
Yeah.
with it now,
Yeah.
but it
Oh,
was
yeah.
difficult. Yeah.
That's it. Even if you kind of, I think, because I'm struggling with that at the moment. I've never written a book like this. The second book in the series I'm writing now, where I jump around a lot more than I ever have. I write quite linearly, linear. I write in a linear way, alongside quite a pre-planned outline as well. And then this book, I've just been kind of, let's just write that scene, and which is the outline is helping with. But I've never done that really before, and it is weird, but I'm kind of going with it. So yeah.
Yeah, if it works, right?
That's it. No one size fits all. It's just you and the
Yeah.
words after all. But I mean, that's why I love digging into this, you know, this concept, because, you know, we are weirdly similar, but also weirdly different at the same time, which is fun.
Yeah, because I feel like almost for a lot of pantsers, like their first draft is kind of like their outline. And then they go back and, you know, make it all kind of make sense. So yeah.
That's it. I mean, I don't know about you, but do you rarely, or have you ever had to kind of move entire chapters around and things like that when, let's say, you've got the
Yes.
back? Yeah.
Which is why I like having like the big screen, because it's easier to see what's going on there, and to have that like kind of context of if I move this over here, what does that affect over here? So yeah.
Really interesting. Yeah. Do you use just your usual Word? Do you use Scrivener? Something
I use Scrivener. Yeah. I was a late adopter.
Nice.
It's like,
Cool.
Word is, you know, I was like very like grumpy about it. I'm like, Word's working for me. I don't know, this like newfangled Scrivener, right? And everybody kept telling me how great it was. And then I like finally, you know, sat down and downloaded it and then watched like, I think maybe a 20-minute video on how to use it. I was like, actually, this is pretty great. So,
yeah. I've personally never used it, but seen Michael J. Sullivan it showed me how to use it, because he's an author who just goes, as you probably do, just really in depth with it and relies on it as a tool. And it's something that it's the barrier that's stopping me.
I would recommend it.
The building. Oh, really? Yeah.
I know,
Maybe I
but it
should.
doesn't take that long. Like just like watch a
Yeah.
video on like 1.5 times speed
Wow.
on YouTube.
Yeah,
That's
I
like
could do
my
that.
trick for making it go faster.
Yeah.
And then, but like one of the things that I found really helpful is that if you link it up to Dropbox,
Mm.
you can download like Scrivener onto your phone and stuff. So if like I'm like
Mm.
stuck in line somewhere, or I'm like, you know, on a road trip or in a car, I can just like take out my phone and like get a
That's
little bit of
cool.
word count done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
That's
pretty
great.
great.
All right, maybe I will be a convert. I'm sort of pages till I die at the moment, the Mac version of Word, which has, I don't know, some sort of organizational elements to it, but I love it. And I don't know, it's kind of like my lucky, I don't know, jersey, or I don't know, lucky sock or boxes or something. It's just like, I feel that I can't write a book outside of it now.
I
I'm
totally
scared
get
to.
that because
Yeah.
I was stuck on Microsoft Word forever. So yeah.
I think everyone knows that's the worst one, even Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, being able to just like click and drag chapters
mm,
around in Scrivener is amazing. Just that
absolutely.
functionality itself. So
Yeah, saves you a lot of time and worry. Copying and pasting large portions of your book at a time is nerve-wracking stuff.
yeah,
Almost as
it
nerve-wracking as
is.
accidentally Control A and then delete, or just pressing any key.
Yeah. You're like, oh.
Yeah, toying with fate. Well, let's talk about inspiration then. So obviously we talked about the music. Where does your inspiration come from? Also, aside from, you know, friends joking and situations like that, you know, do you find yourself delving into a lot of history when you do research or plotting? Do you find yourself going mythology, or yeah, where does your inspiration come from?
I think it's kind of a lot of those things. Like definitely a little bit of history,
Mm,
a little bit of my personal background, a little bit of just like travel and reading about travel. So one of the things that I like to do before I start writing a book is I'll go and check out a bunch of travel books from the
awesome.
library, and then just kind of get pick up those like little details about a place, you know, like
Mm, clever.
I find like some of the good travel books, like they'll talk a little bit about not only like, oh, what are you looking out for here, and like they'll talk about like historical stuff as well, and
Mm,
like why a piece of architecture is here, and then they'll have a little bit of background on just like the sights and sounds kind of stuff. So
that's very clever.
that, and like
Yeah.
also like watching like YouTube videos of other places as well, you kind of
Yeah.
get more of a feel. So yeah, so I kind of like draw from that, and then mythology definitely just
Mm.
in the sense of, you know, those patterns of storytelling. Everything comes in threes, right?
It's like a joke. It's really strange. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something very satisfying about that to the human mind. Uh, and then I also just like draw a lot of inspiration from other books that I've read that I've
Mhm.
enjoyed. And I mean, not like getting down to super specifics, but just thinking like, how did a book make me feel at a certain point, and like,
Mm.
how did they make me feel that way? And what
Yeah,
about that? Like, how can I like translate that into my writing? And
that's
so,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think about that a lot.
nice. Yeah, same. It's I get that a lot from TV and film. You know, why am I breathless? Why am I so excited? Weirdest film I've ever had it with is Cinderella Man. Because I'm not into boxing. I love the underdog story,
Mm-hmm.
and you know Russell Crowe's a good actor. It was a good film. I don't know. I've never had a reaction to that film. I was just like, oh my god, I thought I'm going to have a heart attack in the final fight when I first watched it years ago, and I don't know, I could have just been a little drunk at the time. Who knows? But
But
yeah,
then you
just
start like to think, yeah.
exactly, yeah. And I was thinking, well, okay, we've got the underdog story, and I start unpacking it. And yeah, whenever I come across a feeling like that, or a sense of awe, or a sense of wonder, or yeah, any emotional reaction, I'm always trying to pull it apart. Yeah, books. You know, what word has we used here? What's kind of run up before this to lead me here? What is it? Twisted it? Yeah, all sorts of fun stuff. But I really like your travel book idea as well, especially now in a time where we can't really get a lot of traveling in.
I
That's
know.
really
I can't
good.
really go to the library either.
I know.
So
What's weird is, I suppose, you could kind of travel via Google Earth a little bit and Wikipedia, but
a little
yeah,
bit, yeah.
yeah. I think the books is, you know, a kind of interesting idea there, because also it's all condensed, it's all written, you know, as a sort of, you don't have to do, I would imagine you don't spend as much time researching, because you're not finding all sorts of spurious articles and putting them together. It's all right there in a kind of enjoyable, digestible format, which is quite cool.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm not very good with researching sometimes. It's just like I do that thing where I'm like, I just got to get these words down, and I'll look it up later, and then and then sometimes I'll go back and I'll start researching, and I'm like, oh man, I really messed this up. I'll have to go and like fix some things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the process. But yeah, you can get kind of go down a research rabbit hole sometimes, which isn't the conducive. It's almost a distraction, like social media, isn't it? But
Oh, it is
yeah.
so fun though sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but have you ever found something in research where it's not the thing you're researching, but on the way to finding the information you need, you'll find something. I did it the other day with the legend of some piece of Norse mythology. I completely forgot which one it was now. But either way, I found it, and I didn't really know much about it. And it's just took me down a rabbit hole for about an hour, but it actually formed the entire third book of the series I'm writing. I was like, wow. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even things that are related to what I'm writing, but I just convince myself that maybe I can use it later. Like like I had like this fascination with fig wasps for a while. I don't know if you know about like
Okay.
fig wasps.
Yeah.
Yeah, how they
Weird.
like go into a fig, and then they like lay their eggs and stuff, and they can't get out.
Yeah.
So they just get like absorbed by the
Yep.
fruit. I was like, wow, that's going to be in a story someday, because or
Yeah.
something like related to that, because I'm like, that is some weird like body horror kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I love that sort of stuff as well, when it's kind of used appropriately, because I'm kind of, it's not like I'm squeamish, but I don't like horror films as much as other films. But I do love horror
Mhm.
elements within fantasy, because, you know,
Oh
writing
yeah.
grim, dark, and epic fantasy, you kind of just stray over the edge of, you know, weird creatures, weird magic, gore and stuff like that, body horror. Exactly. It's also one of the reasons why I always look at a fig twice now. I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Well,
huh,
I mean, I found out that they don't, I mean, there's like different varieties of
it's
figs, so
like
they're
the
not
wild
all like
figs or
that, but
something. Yeah.
yeah, but the fact that there is a variety out there like that, and that there's
Mm,
this species that's got this kind of relationship with the plant, it's like
weird.
blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old research. I mean, the world, it's quite fun because we always kind of create our own worlds, but actually, we've got plenty of weirdness and strangeness around us, especially in the animal kingdom and plant kingdom, to draw
Oh
from. We don't
yeah.
really need to kind of, a lot of times we can just borrow, we don't need to invent, which is quite fun. But yeah. So let's start talking about less about writing. Let's kind of move on to some fun stuff, life stuff, that sort of thing. So as you mentioned, reading there and stuff like that. Obviously, reading's difficult to pack into the schedule when we're writing books. That's come up before. But yeah, if you're reading anything right now, what's at the top of your TBR pile?
So I've actually been reading a lot of ARCs, like advanced reader copies.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I haven't read like a lot of stuff for fun lately. I did pick up a copy of Shadow and Bone, that
Ooh,
the
yeah.
Leigh Bardugo
Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
because I saw the preview for Netflix and I was like, oh my God, it looks so
Yeah.
cool.
I'm a
So
sucker
I
for
picked up a copy of
trailers.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Like, I'm like, a wall of darkness, got monsters in it. Yes. So
Tick, tick, tick. Yeah.
exactly. So I like started like the first few pages of that. I'm reading uh, a book that's going to be coming out in, I think, 2022. It's like called God of Neverland by Gama Martinez. So
Mm.
I just started that one. And then I just finished The Jasmine Throne, which is coming out this
Mm.
summer. So that was amazing.
Sounds good.
That
Yeah.
like
I'm
that
so
ticked a
jealous.
lot of reader boxes too. It like has like this creepy plant magic, and you know, a nation that's on the brink, and
Yes.
these two characters who are like these morally gray characters. They do these things that you're like, yes, but then you're also, but is it good?
That's awesome, though.
So
I love that.
it was like one of those books, yeah, where you get to the climax and you're just like You're excited, but you're
Yes,
also like, oh my gosh.
that's
So
brilliant.
that
Yeah.
that book was really really good as well.
I'll have to find out more about that, because that just, yeah, ticks some of the boxes that I like, especially plant magic. It's something that I've seen a couple of times in fantasy. Weirdly, something I'm actually dabbling with now. So whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh God, no, I accidentally plagiarizing something before it's out.
I mean, I've seen like plant magic done so many times, so it's not like it's not like you can't do it, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah, it's how you tell the story, not necessarily what's in the story. Yeah. That's
right,
awesome.
exactly.
Yeah. So let's go on to you, because you kind of, we've touched on your love of kind of SFF and video games and things like that. And you mentioned in one of your bios online about Star Trek. Just, throw away, but I'm because as I'm a little bit of a Trekkie myself, I kind of want to ask the controversial question of which Star Trek is the best Star Trek. And I
Okay,
gave you a day
so
to
this
prepare on this
one,
one as well.
my my answer to this one is rooted in a lot of nostalgia. Like I know, like objectively, it's not the best, but in my heart, the
Yeah.
best is the Next Generation. So,
Okay.
yeah, I grew up watching that series,
Same.
and I always like really admired like Captain Picard, and I think I learned, like, picked up some of like those moral lessons,
Yeah. Yeah.
from that show, and like Measure of a Man, where they're like, his data, like, can we disassemble him, and is that like morally okay? So there's
Yeah.
like a lot of ethical questions in it. I mean, like I know,
Yeah,
like
actually.
from a storytelling perspective, it's extremely episodic. There are threads that are really interesting that never go anywhere. Like there's that the episode that I was like horrified by as a child, where they have those like bug aliens that like go in their mouths, and they have like a breathing tube out the back of their neck that take them over.
Vaguely, yes. It's been a long time since I watched TNG. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end they're like, oh, like what was that? And it's like, oh, it's a homing signal. So like they're like calling to the rest of their kind to come and infiltrate humanity. But like that, like you never see any of that again, which was
Yeah.
disappointing to me. But so from a storytelling perspective, probably not the best Star Trek, but but I grew up with it, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know that feeling. It
I
was
think
always
I think
on.
yeah.
After you.
Oh, I think like from a storytelling perspective, I think Deep Space Nine does a really great job. Like that, it has like a little bit more gray areas, and it does have like a more continuous storyline. I don't think that all the episodes are great, but I think it's got a lot of really good ones there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like from a storytelling perspective, I'd have to say that one, but in my heart of hearts, I'm like, well, always love Next Generation.
Yeah.
I've watched like all the episodes so many times. So yeah.
I'm the same. Like I remember it was kind of the thing that was coming out. I remember when they announced I forget which came first, DS9 or Voyager, but they announced one of them as in the
DS9 came
new.
first.
Right. Okay. I thought you might know. So yes, I'm not a hardcore Trekkie. I just love it. But yeah, so when DS9 was announced, we were still watching TNG or something like that, or rewatching it, and I was just so excited. And then Voyager came along, and I was even more excited for that one. And for some reason, I kind of, Voyager's my one. I like the idea of it's like kind of a quest. It's kind of a band of heroes stuck together sort of thing. I think the story writing's not as kind of defined as DS9, but there's kind of it's episodic, but with an overarching, we got to get from A to B. But so, yeah,
Right.
so we're going to talk superpowers for this one. So if you could have any superpower except the big three of flight, invisibility, or super strength, I'm calling them the big three. What would it be? What would be your superpower?
So I had to think about this one for a while because, I'm like actually pretty happy with like where I am and who I am. But I thought, and I was like, oh, the ultimate superpower, I think, would definitely be changing people's minds on the internet.
Ooh, that's one
being able to do that.
Wow, just click your fingers and a troll just turns around and apologizes.
Be like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize there was an actual person on the other end of this. Yeah, that would be amazing.
That is brilliant. Yeah, that's That's a superpower for the digital age, especially in the last 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good answer. Well done. I wasn't expecting that. And a new question we're asking now as well, just as we come to the end, writing familiars. I said in the last chat when I was chatting to Melinda Spencer, I just need a cat or a dog in my life right now. So I'm kind of living vicariously through the authors I chat to, because I know from Facebook, or I might have seen from Facebook, you have a writing familiar, a cat.
I have two. I have
Two
two cats.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do they look alike? Because have I just seen two and thought they were the same one?
Oh no, you might have. No, they're definitely very different. So one is a Maine Coon, so she's like huge
Oh,
and
wow.
fluffy.
Yeah.
And the other one is a Savannah, so he's got spots and he's quite lean.
Yeah, that's the one I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's the one that's most often like hanging out with me because he's kind of like a little dog that way.
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. So on a
But
scale of 1 to 10, are they are they a help or a hindrance? Because I
oh
find it goes
god,
both ways.
they are definitely a hindrance. It's like one of the reasons why it's nice to work out of my sister's place. Sometimes my husband will bring the baby here and I'll stay at home, and it's I'm like endlessly harassed by them. They'll sleep until like the Maine Coon, she'll like sleep until like maybe like 10 o'clock, and then she'll like saunter over and immediately like want to be in my lap, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. But then she'll not be satisfied with that. So she'll get onto, she's enormous. So she'll get onto the desk and then she'll just sprawl out. And then of course, like half of her is on my keyboard. The rest of her is like on top of my checklist that I like to keep. Oh, no. And then she's also like pushing my coffee off the edge. So, and then around like 12 to 2 p.m., the other one wakes up. So Mochi, my Savannah, he's like a really, really energetic, like little dog.
Yeah.
So he'll come over and then he'll start like pawing at my face or like grabbing my leg and like trying to get me to play with him. So inevitably I have to get up and then like tire him out until he's like just panting and like ready to go to sleep again.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely a hindrance. They're super fun, but also incredibly obnoxious.
Cats are, aren't they? Maybe I've been thinking a cat recently.
Oh, I would highly recommend. Highly recommend. They're so fun, but not very conducive to writing. They will sit on your keyboard like it's the best thing in the world, and it's super comfortable.
Exactly. That's the thing. I only had cats when I was like a kid and writing like my first books when I was, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. I had cats then. But then, since I've actually been an author, I've been living away from home, so kind of didn't have my parents' cats around. I never got one of my own. It was always either rats or fish for some reason. And so now I'm thinking, what if this is actually my kryptonite, and I'm going to get a cat, and they're going to stop me writing, or I won't be able to write because it'll be that much of a hindrance. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out.
Oh no, I mean, you'll figure it out. They're worth it, I would say. I mean, it's tough when they're kittens because they're like all over the place. Yeah. But they sleep a lot.
Oh, so. Yeah. Yeah. No, they're probably the ideal. I think that's the thing. I'd have to go out and take a dog for walks. So cat seems more ideal for the writer. Also, it's like a weird, it's like a familiar thing because I want a black cat as well because it's evil.
Oh, they're great. My last cat was a black cat. He was the best.
They're just there's something about them. They're shifty. I like it. They'd be the assassins in a D&D party. Tell you what, why don't you tell us where we can find you and Bone Shard Daughter and the Drowning Empire trilogy? Where can we find you online?
So I have a website which I have to update, but it's AndreaGStewart.com. And I'm also on Twitter, Andrea G. Stewart, and Instagram as Andrea G. Stewart. So there's that. My books, basically any bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstore, like hopefully should be there as well. Mm-hmm. So
I bet it is, anywhere and everywhere. That's great.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the lounge and answering all these questions, and tell us a bit more about yourself and your books. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, join us next month for another Fantasy Author Lounge. We'll have another awesome guest on and more stuff about writing fantasy, familiars, and geeky stuff. See you then.